Now, the sudden rise in the price of diesel, the fuel that powers a large part of industrial and commercial activities in the Nigerian economy, has had its ripple effect, of course, felt throughout the economy, the manufacturing sector, small and medium-sized enterprises, to small scale, all forms of businesses are feeling the impact of the price of diesel. Now, this has put an unprecedented stress on the economy, threatening its ability to produce goods and services as the nation battles with the scourge of the diesel price hike. The price of diesel rose from about 300 naira at the beginning of the year to more than 700 naira per liter, putting the cost beyond the reach of producers, of course, and others that want to use it. A development that will no doubt impact on the cost of production, which will in turn affect prices of manufactured goods and services across the nation. This might also trigger hyperinflation one way or the other. But let me get the expert into the house to speak to us about this. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijoke Ekechukwu, who is also the past DG of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much, Dr. Ekechukwu, for your time.
Thank you very much, Solo. Pleasure.
Yes, I want to ask you directly now. The price of diesel at what it is, more than 200% hike, is what we've seen. Tell us what it means for you as a business person.
Firstly, it is embarrassing to the country that we have price of diesel rising as much as this. If you recall that in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000, a good number of manufacturing companies left Nigeria because of power and energy deficits that we actually had in this country. Because manufacturing became very difficult as we were competing with goods manufactured in places, countries where the cost of electricity and cost of power was just as low as you can imagine. And so it became difficult for Nigerian manufacturers to continue to compete with some of these products that have been imported from all these countries because of pricing. And right now, like you said, the price has tripled. And the increase has affected every aspect of life, not just manufacturing sector. People no longer sleep well in their homes. And so you see that when you don't sleep well, the next thing that happens to you is ill health, poor health condition, and hospitals are not able to produce at, see their patients optimally because they can't continue to run the generators for their patients, during surgeries and things like that. So it's affecting all sectors of our economy, not just manufacturing. And it's only unfortunate because if we had steady power supply, there would have been, we wouldn't have relied so much on diesel to be able to power our generators. In fact, you will not believe that some African countries, especially in East Africa, many adults said they have not seen a generator before. I'm talking about a country like Uganda. Many adults in that country say they have not seen a generator before. So what that tells us is that these countries have perfected their own power generation and power distribution to the extent that people don't even have need for generators. So it's just because our power sector has not done well. That's why we can even talk about diesel and how it affects us and affects our manufacturing. It's really unfortunate.
Really unfortunate now, selling at something above 700 naira in some cases. Now I'm now looking at the effect on cost of production. That is one. Then there have also been projections before now. Businesses, of course, this year I intend to make this amount, I intend to put this amount into my business. Of course, power supply is a challenge here, we know that. So that would have been factored into the cost of running business, day-to-day business activities. What will happen to a normal businessman at this time, moving on in the year? There has to be some projections and reprojections, and this will affect profit eventually.
You can be sure that all projections that were made at the beginning of the year, like budgets and things like that, may not have factored in the headwind that was going to come in from the diesel or from this sector. Nobody ever expected that the increase we're going to encounter from diesel, the price of diesel would have risen so much, like up to 300% increase. And so you see that all the predictions made at the end of last year for 2022 would have been wrong, ab initio. And so any manufacturing company that actually survives this period will obviously survive any other situation in Nigeria, because this is a very trying period for all manufacturing companies. And you know, like I said before, you are manufacturing and your products are competing with products of countries where cost of production is very minimal. Now, you know, so your own cost of production is as high as it is, and as you are also encountering these costs arising from diesel costs, you are, you know, encountering the inflation rate that is that has arisen from other causes in the economy. You know, so a whole lot of factors, you know, affecting the average manufacturer in this country. And so the impact of this is the fact that a lot of businesses, especially the very small ones, may be folding out because they won't be able to cope with this. I'm sure even as individuals, you know that if you used to put up your generator off if you used to run your generator throughout the night, you now have to shut it down about 12 or even 11 p.m. as the case may be. So many businesses that are not strong enough are going to shut down and probably look for somewhere else or another line of business to go into. But it is important that such businesses also try to be resilient and try to know that until, of course, in doing such businesses, you're going to be encountering problems like this. So the next thing everybody has to be looking for is alternative source of energy. Alternative source of energy. Even for the country, if we realize that this is going to be for such a long time, we need to do a lot of things. Maybe have an industrial park where all the manufacturers are going to be settling and having their own spaces, and then have an alternative source of power for them, which obviously they are going to share, and it will reduce their costs. Every manufacturer has to be looking for another source of energy and power right now in order for them to still be in business. I don't think it's good enough for them to shut down and sack their workers or probably relocate. That is not the solution. We have to find a solution here by making sure we look for other sources of energy to be able to be in production.
Great stuff, Dr. Chidoke. Now we'll have this to contend with. Is either as buyers and now as consumers, higher pricing. If we don't have higher pricing, we'll have reduced quality or quantity. That's realistic. And purchasing power is not improving. It remains the same. So that's also on one side. How will all of this affect inflation? Are we not heading for hyperinflation, like what said?
Yeah, obviously, this and other factors that we're already encountering have taken us to the position you call hyperinflation. But as much as possible, you know, once you're in business, like I said, once you're in business, there are going to be a whole lot of headwinds you're going to be encountering. Some of them can come from government policies, some others can come from competition, some others may come from environmental factors. This one has to do with cost of production. And of course, the consumers like you and I will have to pay the price of whatever thing that is happening. At the time, of course, prices will go up. There is nothing the manufacturer will do apart from increasing prices. And so the ultimate cost will now come to the consumers that will pay the price. And like you say, the disposable income of an average Nigerian is depleting every day. And standard of living continues to drop. And these are the things that are affecting longevity of life, or livelihood of Nigerians. So we need to be sure that we really want to sustain, solve the problems as a country. We need to speak to ourselves. How do we contain this kind of rise in prices, which obviously is affected. Because you know the efforts the central bank has made to be able to bring down the inflation rate from when it was as high as 18% to where it is right now. All those efforts may just have been wiped off with what we're experiencing today with the cost of diesel and cost of every other thing that is rising. If you enter the market today, you know that prices of everything has also tripled in the market. So already, if we tell ourselves the truth, we're already experiencing some kinds of hyperinflation, which has not been announced officially. But otherwise, that's where we're headed to, because there is no price that is affordable right now for an average Nigerian. This is not good enough. But of course, we can also agree that inflation rates have increased all over the world, but that one is also caused by the global oil price situation, which has increased inflation rates all over. But of course, ours has been worsened because of overdependence on these petroleum products for us to live our livelihoods. And so that's actually why ours is just worse than many other countries.
I'm also worried because manufacturers already before now had a big headache. That's forex scarcity, where many of them source for forex and they can't even get half of what they request from the central bank or from the I&E window and all of that. And that comes to fur, looking at them bringing in raw materials and all of that. Now the issue of diesel is coming in. I'm looking at this. Jobs. We say the informal sector can create more jobs, like the manufacturing space and all of that. What can government do now at this time to help? Many talk about the monetary side doing a lot. We seen the fiscal side consolidating this now with focus, with enabling environment for businesses, to thrive.
Yeah, as far as Nigeria remains a net importer of goods and services, we will continue to have the shortages of foreign exchange that we have today. Only recently, I'm sure you heard when CBN governor said towards the end of this year, the intervention done through banks will cease, and every bank will have to go and source their own foreign currency and sell at any level they want to sell. So trying to release the market into demand and supply, and then to be determined by whatever thing they can sell and buy. So if this is so, nobody knows the extent of what banks are able to source for themselves. Nobody knows the essence of the impact it's going to have in the country, considering the fact that many manufacturers are not able to access what they want. Of course, the impacts are going to be there. We're going to be seeing the fact that many production lines will just stop existing. Because the prices of goods are going to rise up so much, people are going to lose their jobs. And having said all these things, which you already have done, when it's not good at this stage to talk about the subsidy which government is even trying to get out of, to include it right now in the diesel area, because there are other economic issues, there are other headwinds that are already existing, which is the FX issue that you mentioned right now. All we have to do is just to continue to encourage and make export business very more attractive. Continue to make export business very more attractive, and then do everything within our powers to stop the importation of petroleum products and ensure that we produce our own petroleum products within our country, so that there won't be so much pressure on this foreign exchange, on foreign currency and exchange, trying to use it to import petroleum products. And a whole lot of things. So there must be frantic and real efforts made by government to encourage exports, so that everybody will see export as very attractive than imports. Once we do this, everybody is going to become an exporter of one thing or the other. That way, we're going to be awash with foreign currencies, and the pressure on the foreign currency will just drop. That's one thing I know the government has to do, and of course, we need to also have monetary policy that should be friendly and should be able to also attract more investors in export business than import business. This is in the short run.
Now, almost finally, of course, the AFCFTA is something that we've talked about. I know you've been on this show to talk about it. A lot of experts have talked about it. We saw what happened in South Africa late last year, the IATF trying to bring everyone together in this one market. But one thing is sure, if we are to participate and get the benefits of the AFCFTA, our manufacturing industry must be highly competitive. With all of these challenges, do you think we will reap the fruits of this laudable initiative?
Yeah, initiative laudable as it was and as it is up to today, but our situation today puts us in a disadvantaged position to be able to enter that market. So what it means is that manufacturers are going to go around the neighboring African countries and manufacture in those countries and bring in these goods because our borders are going to be open for those products. And of course, because of cost of items, prices of goods and services here, those people are going to be making a lot of money. And that is actually what we have been trying to avoid in order for us to grow our exports. We should actually have be sitting down and be taking making the kind of decision that will make us become major exporters of goods and services by actually manufacture, because you cannot export what you don't have. So for us to export, we must be able to manufacture and manufacture enough for both the local market and for the export market. Unfortunately, we're not positioned to take advantage of that global market or that regional market that has been created for everybody to flow in free marketing enterprise.
Finally, Dr. Ikechukwu, supply disruptions have been experienced everywhere. Well, Russia and Ukraine crisis, we see what that is doing, big blow on all economies as we see. I'm also thinking that will this not affect the outlook of Nigeria's manufacturing space, or in general, what is your projection? What is your outlook considering all of the headwinds that we face at this time?
Okay, you see, if we actually have enough strategies, right now, as we're having supply distortions all over the world, it should actually be a time for Nigeria to sit down and say, if these European countries and some other Western world countries are having shortage of supply of gas and things like that, and we have excess of this gas, is there anything we're going to do immediately to be a major exporter, to bridge the gap, to actually bridge the supply gap that we have? So we should be sitting down and be strategizing right now on how we're going to fill up the entire global market with our product in order to close the gap of the shortages we're having. So these are some of the strategies we have to make as an entity called country. Because a private sector person will sit down and make such decisions and expand the frontiers of the market. But I do not know whether such decisions are taking place right now, because the country is considered no man's land, and but it has to be someone's responsibility to sit somewhere and we take the right decisions in order for us to even achieve certain things in the midst of the kind of distortions we have in supply. So there are people who make a lot of profit when there is this kind of distortion, and so that is when their own gains will start. In fact, I know somebody who, when this crisis of Ukraine and Russia was about to start, he imagined that there would be shortage of diesel all over the place. So he stocked a lot of diesel in the storage system that he had all over the place. So from 300 and something, the thing came to 750, and he has sold out and he has made a lot of profit. That is how a country should be reasoning in order for us to even beef up whatever revenue deficiencies we have been having. These are the kind of decisions we need to take, and somebody has to be in charge of these kind of decisions for us to exist as a country.
I must thank you so much. Brilliant conversation. I've been speaking to the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, also the past Director General of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thanks.